let's kick it off. It's going to be quick. It's going to be 25-minute conversation. Maybe we'll have a little time for Q&A. So if you have questions, let us know once we do the conversation. But let me give some quick introductions here. So the panel we have are leaders in the field. So we've got Laura Burkhauser, CEO of Descript, which, let's go. I like that, which offers AI video editing for every kind of video. Prior to this, she was director of product management at a company then known as Twitter. You may have heard of it. Michael Lingelbach is the founder and CEO of Hedra, a next-gen multimodal content creation platform. Prior to this, he was a PhD student at Stanford Vision and Learning Lab. Michael, as I understand it, that is on pause since you founded Hedra?
Well, for a little bit.
Okay. Yes. He'll be back in the lab any minute now. And Justine Moore is a partner on the investing team at Andreessen Horowitz, where she focuses on AI, foundation models, and applications. She has helped lead investment in companies, including 11 Labs, Crea, Black Forest Labs, Hedra, Waveform AI, and Vigil, among others. So thank you all for joining us for a discussion. We're going to talk about AI and creativity. It's a fun topic. It's a topic, it's a spicy topic sometimes. So, but let's ground the conversation to start. I want to ask y'all, and I'll kind of, I'll throw this to the group, but Michael and Laura in particular, I'd love to hear how you share a little bit about how people at your own companies are using your own creative tools, others' creative AI tools, day to day, ground level, how are people actually using this stuff?
Yeah, well, so Descript is a AI native all-in-one video editing solution. I don't know if I said the right words that our marketing person wanted me to. But we're a video editor, and we edit every kind of video, and we really use it that way at Descript. So we are the only video editing tool that you use. Anytime you see us share something on social, share a YouTube video, an educational video, a podcast, a screen share, it's all made with Descript. And because of that, I really have a lot of fun seeing the product both as a product technologist, where when I ask AI to do something like edit my video or use gen media tools, I first am wearing my product hat and I see the thing that it's going to be in a year. And I'm this is amazing. And then I get to put on my customer hat and be I'm on a deadline and it's not quite right. And I think because of that, we really live in this interesting middle period where AI is so promising and in so many ways is already exactly what we want it to be. And still, for marketers on a deadline or for people that are doing this at a certain production level, it's still not good enough for them. And I think that's why using the product all the time at Descript, it keeps me humble, even as I'm very, very excited about where all of this is going.
My personal favorite use case for Descript is every time I'm on the a16z podcast, I ask our marketing team for the raw cut of it. And then I ask the AI assistant to cut out all the filler words that I'm constantly using. And it just magically does that for you. Gets rid of all the ums and uhs and likes, which I say constantly. And so then I sound smarter when I post it online.
That rules.
It's so funny you say that because I watched a I watched a cut that Anish posted of our podcast, and I said 40 times in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I just wish I could do it real time.
Yeah, no, I want a real time filter on everything I say. So yeah, I mean that really echoes our experience at Hedra, and we are actually a Descript customer. But
we're a Hedra customer.
It's just money flowing around and sort of just
a16z money in a loop. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at Hedra, we're on a mission to understand the science of generating compelling content, and that ranges to the deepest layers of the foundation model. How do we build compelling digital actors? How do we build generative video models that put them into scenes? And then how do we optimize that content end to end for engagement? So obviously, we have a very successful marketing team. We've had a tremendous growth on socials. I think we've crossed maybe 1 billion impressions of Hedra content now, which is kind of crazy. And obviously, all that content is generated on our platform. And I think there's this, it's great when you can use your own product to grow your own product, but also there's this question of how we build. And I know a lot of people in the audience are founders. And I think there's something really special when you can build a company where every person in your company is a customer and is able to push for product excellence because they're actually giving product feedback and they're implementing improvements in the product. So that's really how we use Hedra.
That's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about like other tools in our life that we're kind of getting value out of. So in particular, like I hear people talk about sort of at this point, now they've almost become cliche use cases of, tighten up an email. I don't want to hear that ever again. I get it. Like everyone knows you can use ChatGPT for that, but are there any other tools y'all are using that are sort of, emergent use cases? I'll give one actually. Adobe Podcast Enhance is super slept on. You can record yourself in like an airplane bathroom and then run that shit to it. And it sounds like you recorded in a podcast studio. It's incredible. Like there's all these tools coming out that I think people, it's all spreading word of mouth too, right? Like, are there any in your kind of workflow that you're using?
I feel like VCs are like your worst customers for basically any product because you don't come to your jobs really. And so there's not like true use cases. I guess I would say what I've been exploring a lot is like kind of the first wave of AI creative tools, I think was standalone generations of things like an image or like a short video clip or audio. But to be able to tell stories, you really need to bring everything together, and I need to be able to animate a person and have them talk and have them be in a scene and have the scene be consistent over time. So I think a lot of the tools that I'm like using and excited about now are things that enable you to explore scenes and play around with different modalities that will like bring together, audio on top of video. Right. I'm really looking for something around character consistency, would kind of generate multiple videos.
Yeah, you're in Sora now, I believe.
I see.
Yeah, that's good.
Some of the people here have made Sora videos up, which is really exciting.
What are the scenarios?
A lot of the ones I get are me giving people money. I'd say that's
it's a wish fulfillment in scenarios. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think like I have like a creative tools answer, which might be on topic, but then I have like a life pro tip answer. So for like creative tools, I'll echo that I think these like multimodal LLM diffusion model hybrids have been really transformative in terms of narrative storytelling potential. Being able to have like, object insertion, character consistency, especially compositionally, is very powerful. Because you really easily create like product marketing videos on Hedra by like dropping a couple like items in a person and then having that person in multiple scenes. And that, especially with the workflows that are emerging around that, like things that we're launching, it makes you quite productive. On like a personal productivity side, I think there's this like unspoken trend in the valley of like everyone recording everything and like searching over everything. And like obviously 2-party consent state, like make sure you get approval for doing that. But I use granola all the time now, like obsessively. Like if I give feedback conversations, I'll like ask the granola, hey, did I do that constructively? On a sales call, I'll be like, hey, like, what was the customer complaints or what was like the customer asking for, and bring that back to the product and design team. So I do think moving from this like predominantly verbal culture to this like accountability culture that's fostered by this move towards transcription based has been really powerful for how we build.
I am really excited about the workflow that one of our brand designers have. I just think it's like the future of creative tools, and I'm really using it as inspiration when I think about the future of Descript's application layer. So I think there's a lot of excitement about these generative models that like one-shot a video for you. And for social use cases, I think that's often all that you need. But when you're working with creative professionals or you're trying to create assets that are good enough for organizations, often there's like quite a fair amount of tinkering that you need to do on top of an asset to make it really look ready. And the way that is going to change is going to be huge. So what Kristen does is when she's working on an asset, there might be multiple layers to that asset. So like there's a collage in the background and then like the Underboard logo up front. And now she can trivially create micro apps, like UI for micro apps that allow her to turn knobs and dials on the fly, to turn that initial kind of way that the collage came out and to say like, actually, I want the fragmentation to be like 100 pieces and not 50 pieces. And I want the colors to be like these 4 colors and not these 2. And I want to like change the radius of Underlord's eyes, right? That's our robot icon's name. Underlord's eyes should be bigger. And so she'll actually have these like knobs and dials that she's created on the fly that, you would never create an entire app to help you manipulate the eyeballs of an icon like 2 years ago. But now that takes 2 minutes, and it's really worth her time, so she can get the eyeballs looking exactly the way that she wants. So I think like on the other side of this, like one-shotting a video, there's sort of like, what if I can one-shot the app that helps me then tinker and tailor this video to be perfect? That I think is like very exciting.
Awesome. All right, let's take this in a spicy direction. We got the people here. Let's get what they want. So I think last year's word of the year, as chosen by Oxford University Press, they take it upon themselves to have the power to determine word of the year, was brain rot. That was 2024's. I think a good candidate for the word of the year this year is slop. It's when you hear everywhere. You hear all the time now in many, many contexts, but especially as a label for really any content being using generative AI at any point in the process, right? So I want to kind of kick off a spicy little panel discussion. What is slop? How should we think about it?
I feel partly culpable for this. We have powered like a lot of slop. And I think like what slop is it's essentially like low effort creation that is predominantly novelty engagement driven rather than like, it's a really compelling story or it's a really difficult thing to create. And like, I think before there was this great filter on content where you had to be a pretty good content creator to get something with eyeballs. But now you can make like, I don't know, Jesus made out of shrimp. I think it's like the image that will go next to the AI slop announcement. And because that's like so novel, it drives like a lot of initial engagement. But I think there's this phenomenon where happens where like a new capability in a model comes out, lots of people make a lot of content with that, and then there's like a regression to the mean of engagement where it suddenly like just ends up in the background. Yeah. And then the algorithm will filter some of that out. So I think like AI slop is just like this expression of novelty as people experiment with a new technology. But I think ultimately what's exciting is that it is giving way to like new forms of creativity. And the people who become adept at these tools and learn how to create something novel with them can really like push the bound of what art is. And that I think is really exciting. So I think like there is AI slop, but there's also really genuinely amazing creatives that are coming out of this era as well.
I definitely agree with like that last perspective, which is like there's a lot of slop and there's I think a burgeoning class of people that know how to really use these tools and are going to surprise us with the amazing things that they do. But I think like where I disagree slightly is like I think slop has existed since before AI, and I think it's a form of content arbitrage. That essentially, like, there are certain distribution channels that really incentivize, like, maximizing the amount of content that you can create while minimizing, like, the amount of time that it takes you to create them. And even before AI existed, you had, like, low-effort posting. Every subreddit that I'm part of has, like, very strict and specific rules to try to punish for low-effort posting because this is such a problem in any kind of social feed that you're part of. Especially if it's not well moderated or if it's only moderated by engagement. And so I do think that, like, even though there's an aspect of novelty to this, there's just an aspect of content arbitrage that has always existed in social feeds, and that, like, I worry we're not properly incentivized to, like, let the market solve unless the creators of social feeds get a bit more creative in how they reward content. And I hope that just like because slop is going to become such a problem that soon these social networks will feel properly motivated to try to solve this. But like I think we're going to have to go through a dark age first.
There is some that's like it's like objectively slop, but it's also like gonna dominate the feed. Like the lady with the rock that flips over on the glass bridge. Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever see a glass bridge again without thinking, what if a lady with a big rock flipped over backwards and broke it? And then a puppy rescues a baby. Like that one went crazy viral. I always feel like there's some other word we're like lacking for like, yes, this was slop, but I really enjoyed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. to what end? To the end of like our brains atrophying. But okay, now I will step off of my soapbox and be like, I also enjoyed that video.
I do think there's also this issue that's going to happen where a lot of like engaging posts are because people assume reality. Like, it's like, oh, wow, this like this woman is like able to jump like 2 stories high, right? And like, that's like, oh my God, I want to like see that. Like, that can't be real. And before AI, it was like, people weren't like, oh, someone got like a VFX house and like they set things up. There's like a wire that's hidden. But now it's like, in a way, like you see that and you're like, oh, that's just AI. Right? Like, it's not something you share with someone because it's no longer cool. It's no longer real. And I think that's actually like, I think a big loss in some of these networks. And like there is like this superficial stimulation that comes with seeing something that's just like visually, aesthetically interesting. But I think it's cool because now I think what we're seeing is more like localized micro sharing between friends. Like, we see this a lot with like AI video where like you'll send something in a thread rather than like necessarily doom scrolling on TikTok. And I mean, I think that's actually quite healthy. Like, it's like a more social form of social.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we've already seen, like Facebook, I think Facebook became the first AI social network for a while because I think the user demographic was having a hard time distinguishing what was real or not.
Any child praying for the president.
Yeah, the child was made out of water bottles.
Yeah, this child made of water bottles is praying for Donald Trump would get 100 likes from every grandma on Facebook.
Seriously.
Yeah, it was tough.
But now even like I see all the time on Twitter, someone will be like, oh, the boomers on Facebook are convincing this is real. That tweet will get like 100,000 likes. Then I'll go on Facebook and find the original post, and the boomers are all like, this is AI. Like, even the boomer on Facebook.
They're getting caught up. That's good.
Yeah. And so I hope some of it is just like novelty. Some of it is like people getting educated, and it will really.
And we all do get tricked sometimes. I thought the Pope in the jacket was real. Anybody remember? I was like, damn, it's kind of fresh for the Pope, but like, no.
I think it was like a perfect example though, because like you saw like a dramatic decline in the number of like engagements with that kind of content.
Right.
Like, I remember when like AI images first got like to the point where you could fool people. Yeah. And there were so many for like a couple months. And then I feel like it really dropped off.
It's every technological leap. There's people go, oh, I didn't know that was possible, so I assumed it was real. For a more recent one was raccoons on a trampoline. I had no idea that was possible. I don't know what model was that?
VO3.
That was VO3. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's seen it, but there's so many. It's like a very particular type of like grainy nighttime footage, and there was like 16 raccoons jumping on a trampoline. It caught me, and now never again. Never fully again.
It's stupid. Like, also, I mean, think about like AI work slop, or like the slop that is like writing with AI now. And there I think like the novelty is long dead, but the utility is still there. And I think like when there's just a lack of intrinsic value, like for the quality of something, you will do the lowest common denominator version of it. And I think that's going to persist past the novelty, in fact.
Someone argued LinkedIn as a platform was entirely slop. Human or AI.
No one spends any time actually writing sentences on LinkedIn. It is just AI generated broetry, and it's like a frightening place to be sometimes.
I would just like to say my ghostwriter spends a lot of time writing sentences somewhere there.
All of my posts are 100%, Laura generated, but it doesn't necessarily perform better than the slop, and I don't know what to make of that. Nothing good.
I found that being like really short and rude on emails comes across as entirely human now, and I wonder about that. Like, are there things that AI won't do that we're in the realm of human?
Yeah, every time I get an Instagram, I'm like, oh, that person really cares.
Right, right. Okay, there's one more in this line of questioning, which Justine, you tweeted this recently. It was this story. This woman who discovered her neighbor was using AI to generate footage of her dog pooping on her lawn. So this was like local neighborhood drama that with AI being weaponized. What do you make of this story?
This story was interesting because the woman immediately knew he made it with Nano Banana, and then like showed him actually here's how to do it better, just so you know, and then pointed out to the whole neighbor group chat like whatever generator he used changed the shape of my dog's face and changed the markings. Yeah. This is the picture of my dog. Yeah. This is his picture, which like he did a bad job with generation. Like everyone made fun of him for that.
So I don't.
She was a pro.
She was a
Yeah,
pro.
power user manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like people are going to become more skeptical of what they see anywhere and already have been, which is not necessarily a terrible thing. But yeah, we'll make some neighborhood group chats like pretty spicy for a while, I think.
Going. All right, I'll take us out of Sloptown here for a minute because there is amazing progress beneath these tools. Like the things you're able to make, looking more and more freemium, and people are able to make things that they're actually have value and that customers like to see. Right, that is the trend line. Anybody that can appreciate a graph can tell that is where things are headed. Right. So I think something that's been interesting to me is we've been in this sort of like all boats rise situation with like the foundation models getting progressively better and better and better, where even to the point where like something like Sora 2 comes out and it's like, well, no, actually there's other things better than that. Things are increasing so quickly. So like, I'm curious, like in your businesses, when you think about the trajectory that thing you're going, what is the next unlock? What are the things that are like, it's not quite there yet, but you can see it coming, you're getting ready for it to be unlocked, for customers, anything along these lines?
I think Justine made a really good point when like early on, it was just like, oh, wow, like I'm going to pay to just go make an image or go make like a clip of video. And I think like what you're seeing with tools like Descript and like what we're seeing now with like Hedra is that there's a lot of opportunity to build like deep vertical integration between model and product in a way that empowers new types of workflows and new second order effects. Like before you would create like one piece of video content and you deploy it and that's it. I think we're heading to a future where you're building like self-optimizing content where you can maximize for engagement, maximize for understanding. And I think there are hundreds of startups to be built on like building out experiences for different personas because there's so many different types of people that create media. And there's such a better experience than just going to a chatbot and getting like a picture of the Pope, right? And I think that's like the big opportunity for startups. Even if you're not operating at the model layer, there are so many experiences at the product layer and the integration and workflow layer that are yet to be unlocked.
Yes, I agree. The way that I think about it is there's sort of three layers that are interesting. There's the generation layer, and I think like that's where things have been kind of heating up lately in a really exciting way. And then there's the orchestration layer. So how do you bring together all of these disparate parts, whether it's like an avatar and generated media and recorded media and, like titles and layouts and transitions, some of which you will generate and some of which you may generate but with a different model. Thinking about all of those as low-level tools, like what is the thinker or brain that can put them together? And one answer to that is like an agentic co-editor. That's like something that we're, we've launched our first version of that, but I call that like the orchestration layer. And I think like we could probably use another unlock. I'm waiting for GPT-6 to really make that. I think like there's probably a couple of additional leaps in generalized intelligence to make that kind of like the person with taste that you want it to be. But right now it's really good at helping people who otherwise could not get from 0 to 1, get there real fast or do bulk editing. And then I think there's the application layer. I talked about that a little bit earlier, but this is, I think, even in a world where you have really amazing generation and you're able to like one-shot something really wonderful, and you have like fantastic orchestration and can start to have an agentic editor put something together that looks really good and production ready. I think that there are a lot of people who still need to get their hands dirty in the knobs and dials to create the experience that they really want to. And there, I also think that like AI, like I said, like I think we're moving into a world where you'll have like UI on the fly, like that just generates itself according to use case and content type. And so I think like at every layer, there are really interesting innovations happening. And the generation layer is just like one piece of that. So I think you need a lot of additional unlocks before we're really living in the future.
Any tools you're waiting to unlock? People say that the VCs, we're going to be the first ones to be replaced by AI.
Yeah, that'd be great.
They want it to be true.
Yeah, please. No, I totally agree. I think like it's almost like we've gotten so many amazing new models recently that like the software and the application layer has not kept up as much so that everyday people can use these things. Like if you think about it, a lot like an average person going to a website is often confused by how do I prompt this? How do I get the best results out of it? What type of content do I put into this? And so I think the agentic kind of editor interface is super interesting because you can get it really specific instructions. Like, I want a 2-minute clip like that you cut from all of these steps of my business, make an AI avatar that is talking over these parts of it and translate it into all of these languages. Or a beginner could come in and say, like, make a cool thing for my business. Here's the website. And then eventually learn the tool over time. Right. I think that another kind of interesting part of that is like the model routings part of things. So like many of these kind of tools and interfaces don't just call on one model, they use multiple models. And as a user today, it's incumbent on you to decide if I want to put my character in a different environment. Do I use Nano Banana? Do I use Fox Context? Do I use Quen Image Edit? All of these models are really good at different things. And I think they're like AI could totally play a role in making more of those decisions for you, unless kind of you're a pro and you want to define it yourself.
Right. All right, let's wrap it up and we'll go to Q&A. I want to leave the people with something to hold on to, hope for the future. I want to see from each of you, if you're willing, a prediction for where these AI creative tools are going to take us 1 year from now. Mike, what do you want to go run with that?
I think that we're going to start seeing a rise of like automated production, where you create like essentially like digital directors or producers that are creating like content channels, micro universes that are self-sustaining. And I think that's going to be really interesting. So like, I think you're going to start seeing, you're already seeing this now with like what they call it, AI pop or A-pop. Where you have like virtual performers. I think you're going to see that with like influencers. You're going to see a lot of marketing that like gets routed through those influencers. I also do think that we're going to start seeing a lot more enterprise adoption of generative media. I think we've now like passed the curve of just like the early prosumer adoption, and people are getting really serious about understanding not just like the spend reductions, which I find to be quite boring, but actually the ability to create actually net better converting content, which I find to be really exciting. So I think that coupled with like transformative prosumer use cases by these systems becoming, instead of first order clip generation, but second order content generation capable, coupled with like that translating into like enterprise adoption, is going to make this technology ubiquitous and mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, I think like going off of some of the things that we've talked about, I'm interested in if we'll start to see entirely synthetic cultures. So like human out of the loop content, where the human might set up the dominoes and sort of push the first one, but after that, like the content is sort of creating itself and the characters developing on their own. And then I think about like how like so much of the media that we consume is like kind of recycled IP, that I think about like, and I think about fan fiction, and like I just want to say I'm not going to make this startup, but I would like for someone to build the startup that is like synthetic culture fan fiction based on like IP. You'll have to do a lot of partnership deals or you will get sued. But I just think like doesn't have anything to do with what I'm building, but I think that's a fun thing that I'd like to put out a fall for a startup to do.
It's a good request for startup. Yeah, next batch has to be run. That rules. Yeah.
You guys have covered a lot of the great consumer stuff that I think is going to happen. I guess on the enterprise side, the only thing I'll add is I talk to a lot of like the big media companies and brands who are thinking about how to use AI in their business, like some of the world's largest brands and media and entertainment companies. And I think you'd be surprised by how many of them are already quietly using AI behind the scenes and just haven't talked about it. Often in small ways today around kind of storyboarding or editing something or changing the voice or de-aging a character or whatever. I think we're going to see them using it more and more in larger parts of the production as they can have more control over the outputs. Things are easier to edit. Resolutions of what they can generate are higher, that sort of thing. And I think they're going to start talking about it more, and they may also start figuring out, like, it's an IP question, a lot of them are actually more eager than you think to have people interacting with their characters through AI, because, like, imagine a kid's app where your kid can talk to the Disney character that they love the most about whatever they learned in school for 15 minutes at the end of the day. Like, a lot of parents would love that, and that's actually a good thing for Disney as a company. So I think a lot of the, like, hate from the entertainment side will calm down, and we'll start seeing more public, like, acceptance and adoption.
I like that. Let's move to Q&A. Anybody have questions? You can raise a hand, and Sherjal's grabbing a mic. I'll let you go. I like that. Confidence. Let's go.
I have an AI filmmaking startup. I make everything recipes. One thing I like to do is, Peter Thiel switch, like, what's something contrarian you believe that you think is a bigger crazy, but in 5 to 10 years is going to come true? Is it Tilly Norwoods are going to replace all the actors and actresses of the world? That's something crazy.
Any contrarians in the chat over here?
Michael, I feel like should I go, or are you veering out?
You have a real twinkle, you have a twinkle in your eye.
I think that the areas that people think that AI is going to become totally dominant and wipe out traditional media are not actually the areas that are going to be impacted. So, like, I don't think A24 is going to be all AI generated in 10 years, even if the technology is there. And I don't think that, like, TikTok is going to be, like, a predominantly, like, an AI only feed. Because I think that it's missing some of the things like social connections or, like, authenticity. But I do think that there are going to be new distribution channels which are AI optimized or geared towards content. So maybe that's, like, a hot take from someone who has a very vested interest in all of you generating a bunch of AI video. But I think that there's, like, a lot of alarmism in the industry about, like, the things that we care about going away. And I think that we should be optimistic about new things that will be exciting coming in. So that would be my contrarian take.
I guess mine, I mean, you hear all the time things like the Tilly Norwood, like, AI actress gets signed to talent agency, like, the AI K-pop groups, all those sorts of things that it's going to replace, like, human actors and actresses. I actually think that really, like, underestimates how much humans love to, like, gossip about real people in their lives, which is, like, a main purpose of celebrities. And so I think actually, like, human, like, celebrities, like actors, actresses, and singers will still be around because people loved having that sort of parasocial relationship with them. And then maybe, I don't know, there's side characters or other roles, like, filled with AI actors, but I don't think they're going to go away completely.
I dig that. All right. Do you have a microphone? You can take mine.
Online.
Yeah.
So what is the most surprising encounter you took place from the user platform? Not talk to me.
I wasn't going to say that one, actually. Okay, so, like, I started seeing this, like, really weird, like, what's the, like, backroom? What's, like, the backroom style stuff?
Yeah, liminal space.
Liminal space stuff. I started seeing this, like, weird liminal space stuff, like, all over the internet. And, like, I started getting, like, questions on a support forum, like, how do I make, like, this liminal space thing? And, like, my assumption was, okay, like, there was this trend that people started, and now they want to, like, make more of it with Hedra. But then I found out it actually originated on Hedra, which was, like, super weird. Oh, wow. And, like, I was wondering, like, why are there so many people in Brazil, like, making, like, this, making content? And then I realized, like, it was this, like, whole Redalam thing that, like, originated. And I thought that was, like, kind of cool, although the videos are quite creepy.
Is this the most surprising content we've seen people create on our platform? Yeah. Okay, so after we launched Underlord, I wanted to find out, like, what are people making on this? And so I would just, like, scour the logs every day to just see, like, what are people making. And I will say I learned a lot of conspiracy theories that day. Some of them involved both Taylor Swift and JFK in the same video. So that I just learned a lot.
Good. Yeah, you can go. Yeah.
And my question is, where do you see the strongest UC's brand? And on the IP side, really old school software is being newer. It generates in content creators.
I did not hear the question. I'm
Was
sorry.
it strong, like the strongest use case so far?
For AI, and if you think it's in a big
Oh, for AI news.
more than the VC.
Oh.
In the news industry?
Have you guys seen a lot of news?
Yeah, so like what I'll say is I see we have a lot of people in the news industry using Descript, and I'll just say that like that's where Gen Media, like if you think about where AI can play in the video production stack, right? Like we've talked a lot about like generative AI where it like is creating the like the camera replacement or whatever, it's creating the media that you edit. But like where I think like for news, the most important thing, right, is time from when the event happened to when you can show that the event happened or shows people talking in a smart way about the event. And so like at Descript, we have a lot of people who use Descript to just like cut down the production time. So we'll have, you know, one of our customers, Al Jazeera, will just have like a team of people all collaborating in the document to get from like story break to like let's air this story, edited story as quickly as possible by using AI editing tools. So I think like that's an obvious use case for news.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying this is great. I'm platform, so I get to say my monologue about this. I think one of the great tragedies of America is the death of civic engagement due to the lack of local news. And we used to have like local newspapers, we used to have local news stations that would all give local reporting, and like, you know, commercial incentives, cost of production has just like made that go away. And a really interesting use case for Hedra that we didn't realize is people started making like local news bots where they would like connect together like an LLM with like an RSS scraper where they would actually make like, you know, video content about things that were happening in their community and then distribute that. And I think that's cool because it's not like this was already going away. There were economic reasons why local news is going away. But because the cost of production, the ease of use has come down, there's a way for people to stay civically engaged in their community and aware of local events. And I think that's like the most exciting thing is that even though there maybe is a big pressure and we think of things trending towards consolidation, I think AI is empowering like local and small businesses to be able to create content at scale and with like a regular cadence. That's really important for our society.
There was a cool technological use case a couple of years ago where the Weather Channel partnered with Epic Games to use Unreal Engine to like generate realistic simulations of what a incoming storm would do to a community. And I think, especially as world models get better, that's a really interesting use case. Some cases, I'm from South Mississippi. If a hurricane's coming, it's helpful to show people what the water level is going to look like, right? And they were using Unreal Engine 4 to show this relative to the anchor staying there is what the water level is going to be. That helps people go, oh shit, I got to get out of my house, right? I got to go find a place to stay. So there's like educational use cases like that I think that like a local news team even could be able to use in the future with the right tools as these things get more advanced that I'm kind of hopeful about. So
you guys mentioned children. With this growing dependency on AI, how do you see the next generation developing critical and on skill set?
Is that me? Okay, I told them I would take the hard questions. So every like there's always like kind of hysteria and panic around every wave of new technology, like the internet and laptops and mobile phones and calculators, even if you can believe it, like how young people are never going to learn how to think. I think like we'll probably end up somewhere in between. Like you don't want a world where every kid is doing all of their homework with an LLM and never learning anything. I think, in my opinion at least, you also don't want a world where kids never learn how to use these tools because I'm sure as all of us have seen, like, and I have friends who work nowhere near tech or AI and they have even seen it come into their jobs and have really benefited when they're able to use these tools. And so I guess my perspective is we're probably going to have to figure out like, of the traditional learning system, what was really important for people to learn, what was not just like rote memorization or things that they would not use in their life for their day-to-day job, and then how can we design evaluations that test is someone actually learning these things. I think from a creative tools perspective, like I don't know if you guys have seen this too, but kids love seeing things like, this is what I want to be when I grow up, and now I can like render an image of like me doing that. And like imagining the story of like how I get there, or make a personalized storybook like starring themselves or their dog. Like and that sort of that that sort of activity is often more creative and thought-provoking than like watching a game on their iPad. So I think there's actually a lot of positives that are probably not like super broadly covered yet, and that we're gonna figure out more over time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have 3 kids. My oldest is turning 9 next week. And when this stuff started to get good, I had 2 thoughts at the same time. Oh my God, how do I give this to Bowie and see what he does with it? And oh my God, how do I protect Bowie from this? And I think like I just at the same time could think of 1,000 applications for AI, 500 of which are just like, oh my gosh, she's gonna have access to knowledge that I never had, and it will be personalized to like his level. And as he gets better, it will get, he can go as deep as he wants. So, okay, he didn't do camp this one week, and I'm not a great parent, so we watched this episode of the X-Files where they're the half like fruit worm, half human, and he asked me like, why did this happen? And I said Chernobyl. And he's then led to, for the next 5 days, I created a custom like work plan for him wherein he would learn about fluke worms, Chernobyl, FBI agents, like all of his 10,000 questions that cascaded from that episode of the X-Files that I allowed him to watch became this personalized like lesson plan for him, which is so exciting. We built a video game using Replit where the Titanic sinks because he's like obsessed with the Titanic. So there's these really exciting things, but then also like I will not let him be in the room alone with AI. There are no safeguards on that thing. Right. And I think like when I see this, all I see is like product opportunity. So I'm mostly extremely excited about what products we can build for kids in education. And my sister now works at one of the schools that's like an AI education place and has really exciting stories from the field there. So I'm largely like bullish and long on AI as being like helpful for kids, but I'm also a realist and there's got to be more safeguards in place.
I'm gonna give the hot contrarian take. I think LLMs to some extent have productionized mediocrity. Like, I think if you go read like a 5-paragraph essay that's written by like 90% of people in middle and high school is going to be the same essay. And I think that is fundamentally exacerbating some existing misaligned incentives in our education system where we celebrate output and not understanding. And I think that fundamentally we do really have to rethink education. And there are amazing startups that are trying to invest in this now. But ultimately, like, we need to be rewarding people developing the internal capabilities, critical thinking, and understanding, not being rewarding the output of an LLM, which is proxy via a student. And because the technology has become ubiquitous and evolved so quickly, I don't think our education system has adapted to that. And I think there are obviously like the upper 10% of like hyper engaged students who care about enhancing their productivity are going to be more productive than ever. But I think a large portion of students that see this as a way to just get through work more quickly are not developing the appropriate skills that they're actually going to be able to realize the full potential of the technology.
Ask yours.
Sure.
Hoppus, you mentioned AI school. I see a very large growing interest in Mossword schools. So it's like, how do you see that some people want to distance themselves completely from it, especially let's build these products, versus obviously you have a very specific ability to change it and be able to provide.
I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned Montessori because I think like the whole underlying idea of Montessori is that there isn't this fixed curriculum, but that you go where your interest and your natural curiosity takes you. And I think like AI is something that actually makes that scale. But like, look, I guess what I'll say is I'm of two minds of this. And I think like, ultimately, like the number one thing that is going to like help a child succeed and in life is having like very involved adults that care deeply about that child and the outcomes of that child. And then I think like whether the way that they care about that child is sending them to a school where you march through the woods all day and like heat leaves up trees, or like a school where you're using AI to chase your creativity. Like I think those are just tools on top of philosophy, you know?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I like what you guys are doing, especially legal creation stuff. So, part of my background is I was on cinematic scene for Final Fantasy stuff. So, like, I've seen like process, director, storyboard, this really fun, this really cinematic stuff. So the thing we're kind of curious about, but actually like a lot of people use this up, but kind of curious about is at what point do you think like the typical user will be able to create their own cinematic grade quality trail? And then once every good person has access to that, then what people will change, right? These big seals, these like Trevor, these movies, over his sea.
Don, do you want to go?
I can do this one. So I think I think the quality is already basically there. Like we're not talking about like, realistic humans. We're talking about like artistic stylized things. I think the challenge really comes down to like artistic and creative direction. And when you actually go and like interview a bunch of these like really prolific AI creators who rise to the top in terms of quality and engagement, what you'll often find is a lot of them come from a traditional film background. So they've either like worked as like a cinematographer or they've worked as a director. And what we're doing is not changing that like fundamental instinct about art, composition, lighting. We're just giving them a different tool to realize that. And they'll do the re-rolling of the prompts. They'll do the like manual edits of the images. I think the question is just like, are we at the point where that is going to be as easy of a process for these like traditional production studios? I say not quite yet. I think there's not really the tooling to do it yet. A lot of this is like manually stitching together things. But I do think, kind of harkening back to an earlier point I made, I think there are going to be vertical companies that really target building out that storyboard, mood boarding workflow that's targeted at like cinematic production content. But like I think people have been so focused right now on just getting the core capabilities in the model to the point where building that application level workflow tool for the creatives makes sense.
Did you say you worked on Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah, I just want it. Oh, that's sick. That's that I'm drop this year's. And looks at the it's never remake.
Oh wow.
That's so cool.
All right, this guy's sick. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, just checking because those games will win. I think I got time for one more question. Do you have one? Yeah.
Go classic. So I think where we put a real focus now is the next AI TikTok or someone using using AI that's quite small right now, but could be really the tomorrow versus any top like $100 million player. And second question, maybe that quite easy question is, imagine there's the like end application layer and infrastructure model and repeatedly where you see the real near-term differentiator sits, like where which layer has most of the differentiator or using each layer won't still have its little bit of differentiator. The city Apple layer, you can still scan the look effort trying to choose the next model and then get their partnership with the next model so that we get better cost and skill cost. I don't know the cost matters. I'm not sure now for either cube and then you still look at it's like the image of X can be small and cost efficient cache and stuff like that.
I feel like there were like 3 sub questions in there.
Yeah,
so
that's
let me like restate the questions or like reword them and see if I got this. I think the first question is on from a go-to-market standpoint, do you emphasize thinking about like novel distribution platforms versus like maybe more niche or vertical use cases? I think the second question was thinking a little bit about like being model agnostic or like how do you think about the value accruing either in the model layer versus the application layer?
Maybe just break to that full yourself for the tool layer. Do you see llama? No, there's gonna be so many differentiator for a single hub.
Yeah, I can do a first pass at this. So I think from my perspective, and maybe this is like getting a little bit too nerdy, but I think a lot about net revenue retention conditioned on user persona. So I think for something like AI TikTok, consumers have a very low willingness to pay. Like that's why like 2% of funding is going to like consumer applications in VC right now. Because you have to convince someone to not only like be a creator, but be a creator longer than the average, like 6 months, which I think is like the average time someone stays a content creator. And so that's why building a business like AI TikTok is quite expensive because in old days, like old SaaS, the cost of building a business decreased with scale. Like you build out like more large scale services, you tie large contracts with AWS, you do a CDN, everything gets cheaper. With AI, it linearly scales because you're paying the same for the model inference because GPUs are expensive. So building like a fundamentally consumer experience where the core engagement metric of the consumer experience is creating AI video is basically hard mode. Like OpenAI is losing a ton of money on Sora 2 right now. Like probably like they haven't shared it, but like astronomical amounts of money. And that's very hard for a startup to compete with, right? And there are a lot of startups that were trying to do fundamentally consumer distribution around AI video creation that like just are not going to be able to do that massive subsidy required to play in that space. And it's still unclear whether that's a sustainable business model that will sustain past the initial novelty of the technology. So for me, I think a lot about like who's actually coming to the technology and why, and is it creating a revenue deriving use case, which is why we at Hedra focus a lot more on like pro content creators or like enterprise users that are looking for ways to integrate generative media throughout their stack. But I think like there are amazing consumer companies to be built. It's just you have to really understand your user persona and you have to find people who have extremely high willingness to pay. And that often involves getting really niche. I think to your second question about like models and infra. So, you know, we train our own foundation model, which is kind of, I guess, now becoming increasingly rare. But we also spend a lot of time focused on UX design and workflow. And that's an intentional bet because I feel like there's a synergistic multiplicative value to co-designing model and product. Because at least in media, it's not like LLMs where everything just gets horizontal or vertically better in all categories with like massive amounts of data. There's a lot on like modalities and like how you prompt and how you enable controllability of these models that's beyond pure text. And I still think we're very early in figuring out what the optimal way for not just humans but agents to engage with generative media models are to optimize for like the desired outcomes. So I think for us, like we have like an amazing team of like researchers, and like I'm a researcher also myself. And I think we spend a lot of time thinking about what's the thing that we can do differently that is going to unlock some additional value that people haven't thought about yet. That being said, like I think we only do that because we have like a North Star vision of what we're building towards, and that the models and technology don't yet exist for that. And so instead of us being beholden to like another company saying this is our number one priority, we're going to go build this, we just build the technology ourselves and we build the product alongside it. So I think that there is equally large opportunities in both spaces, but I think the cost of entry to building models is extremely high. And I think there's just way more ROI for most companies to think on unlocking new product and application experiences.
It's just how geez. You didn't get the videos to make chips yet.
I mean, chips are very hard. That's like a really hard business because NVIDIA is like, you know, you're going up against the Death Star, right? So no, we don't build our own chips.
All right, we'll do one more. Yes, one more question right here.
We need, oh, okay.
Hit the button.
No.
There we go. If you look at TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Sora today, a lot of the most viral content are kind of bring a lot, you know, like cats, cutting cheese, and all then doing ASMR. So as, you know, builders in the generation space and the like orchestration layer, how do you balance engagement and taste and content actually with meaning and substance?
I think that this stuff is very nascent and we're all learning how to use it. And I think it's going to be, I mean, we're starting to see a little bit of like, what does this look like when someone who was born in I'm thinking of like that Bane quote, what is this, like, I was born in the darkness? Like people that were born into this technology, like how are they going to start to create things? So I'll say I think we're still nascent and we're seeing like the very first applications of this. But I think that part of that is also like why I'm so inspired to build on the orchestration and application layer, because right now, if all you're doing is using an app that lets you try to one-shot or re-prompt your way into 8-second bites at a time, but doesn't give you then like the tool to put that all together and put your thumbprints on and make perfect, then we'll just see a bunch of 4-second clips that are kind of interesting. But I'm very excited as we think about like the kind of kid that had a camcorder in the 90s, like getting access to this stuff. It gets faster, it gets cheaper, and you have the application layer that allows you to put things together. I think we will start to, over the next few months, see entire new universes. I mean, like, we have things like Italian brain rot or whatever, but this sort of thing where you have like new universes where someone has come up with their own, entire fictional cast of characters they're putting together and bringing to life. And I think that is going to happen very quickly over the next few months. But I'll say, like, I think it's just starting now. Like VO3 and Sora 2 are, to me, the first models that are good enough to kind of imagine that can happen.
There's also a question of like who makes money off of that. So like you might have a video that gets like 500 million views, right? Is it more valuable that you paid us or like OpenAI like $1 to make that video? Or is it more value to TikTok, who is like driving the eyeballs on that's selling ads? So for me, like, I don't care about brain rot because we make very little money off of like someone that is coming and generating brain rot because we're not controlling the distribution platform for that. So I think it really depends on like what kind of business you're trying to build. I think brain rot only just drives eyes to like TikTok, and to me, it's not that important.
Well, I guess like I think about like TikTok itself in general is not like where like auteurs go or where like kind of creative people go. Like that's I mean, I shouldn't say that, but like where you'll really start to see this stuff is on YouTube, because that's where creative people monetize. And so like I think like TikTok is the first step, but like it's when you start to see people put this together into something that they can monetize, that like that's when the real talent will be attracted there. You have to think about it from the creator point of view.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I think some people equate all AI content to like brain rot or swap. Because
just to clarify, also, I was talking about Italian brain rot specifically, like, you know, which I think of as not being,
which I actually don't think is real brain
rot. This is someone who's like thinking about a universe and creating a series of memes. Like, I actually like, I know it's called brain rot, but I think that's real content.
Yeah, I think that is real. I think like there's some like true brain rot or swap content, and I think like a lot of people see that and see how viral it is, and it's like all AI stuff is this. But to me, it's sort of like memes. Like I get way more engagement on like dumb memes I post on Twitter, like because everyone like the quick, easy thing. Like even before AI, there was all these sorts of content where it's like it's quick, it's easy, it's funny, it plays on like a shared memory or shared thing people know, makes them feel like they're in an in group. But that's not the majority of what like real creatives are using AI for. It just gets less impressions right now, and that's not unusual, honestly, looking at like the past of all of these platforms and how they distributed media.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Let's give a thanks round of applause for our